Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Frank here. Beginning to work today on the Scarifier attachment for the mini motor grader. If you haven't seen the mini motor grader, it's right here. So this is my Cub Cadet inspired miniature motor grader. All right, so it's got a Cub Cadet frame, a couple of Cub Cadet transmissions, Cub Cadet engine, and then everything forward of the operator's seats I fabricated. It does have a Cub Cadet front axle. It's power steering up front, hydraulically operated blade circle mounted on the traction frame underneath the main frame. But what we're going to work on is a Scarifier attachment that will come off the back of the tractor, be hydraulically operated from the operator's seat. So we'll add a hydraulic valve, spool valve to operate it. So that's what we're going to start working on today. So the first thing I need to do is I need to cut some parts out of my plasma table. In order to mount something and implement off the back of the tractor, I need a way to attach it to the tractor, obviously. So think about a 3-point hitch is kind of a reasonable prototype or starting point. So normally with 3-point hitch you have 2 lower arms that extend out from the axles, and then a top link which extends from somewhere higher up on the frame. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to build some brackets to clamp around the rear axles. The axles are hexagonal, so the plan is to cut some rectangular pieces of 1/4-inch steel plate about this big, and then bend them so they have 3 sides at a roughly 60-degree angle, or 30-degree angles, I guess, and then so that when you put 2 of them together you get 60. And bend them and then make clamps out of them that'll clamp around the rear axles, which are hexagonal in shape and they're about that big. They're about 2.5 inches or 3 inches, roughly in diameter, though they're hexagonal in shape. So I'm going to cut those plates out, and that's where we'll start. And then there's just a couple of attachment points that will weld to the brackets so that we can attach for lack of another term, a lower link or lower arm. And that'll be the beginning of the mechanism to control, lift, lower, manage the Scarifier. So that's where we're headed right now. Let's go cut some stuff out and see how that turns out. It's not supposed to stick like that. So I have had to change out my plasma torch. So I'm going to need to adjust my cut speed or whatever. Okay, well anyway, it worked fine. And there's little notches on the edges which show me where to bend. So I'm not too happy with the cut quality on those. I have to adjust my settings. So I mean, that's how you chip the slag off of the back of the parts. You got to push it toward the edge like that. So I mean, it's not a huge amount more slag than normal, but I don't know. All right, so we're going to go to the press brake and fold these a little bit so they'll fit around the axle of the tractor. right, I need to probably made my bends out of sequence. I should have made that one. All right, well. Let's see, we can probably do it this way. I'm basically bending 30 degrees. So this is what I want. Okay. I'll go check this and make sure this fits the axle. I'm going to bend another one like that. It would be clamped together. I'm going to go just see if this fits the axle. I think that's it. All right, so that fits. We just need to make 3 more. Yeah, I have to admit, I messed up a little bit here. I should have been closer to the edge. Should have been, well, I mean, that was right on the edge here, but I should have been closer to this edge, you know, less waste. You know, you're looking for a 1/16 of an inch is really all you need. All right, I've got the torch set up over here again. We're going to cut out an area about 4 or 5 inches square. A couple little wings that we'll weld onto those clamp brackets. Let's see how this works. All right, that's more like what you expect. Okay, so here's the plan. This clamps around the axle. These get welded like this. And then that leaves room for a pin to go between these two ears. Okay. So a pin can go between those two ears so that an arm can be pinned and rotate like this around the axle. So this would probably be vertical, and these would be, like that. So, all right, so that's what we're doing here in getting to a, ability to clamp an arm to the axle, so that the Scarifier, Scarifier, can be pulled by the axles themselves, which are the strongest part, of the tractor. All right, so we'll see about tacking these together. All right, let's get set up to do that. Get these wet gloves off and turn my plasma table off. All right, so I just put a bolt, a couple spacers so that, these ears are aligned properly. I'm not going to fully weld them at this point. I'm going to give them a pretty heavy tack. I mean, there's always a possibility we need to change something, but I think we're in good shape here, so. Yeah, it needs a little more heat than that. I could turn on the gas. No, that's on. Never mind. All right, so that basically pretty good tack welded together. For test fitting, that'll be plenty good for our initial purposes here. All right. All right, so we got 1/2-inch bolts here. All right, so got our two axle clamps done here. Got safety nuts on a couple of these. I need to, well, actually, I think I got them on all of them now. Yeah, I found some more nylock nuts, so that'll hold everything tight. All right, so we'll slip these on the axles and then go from there. Start working on it. Yeah, I can tell right off that the holes are not big enough. All right, well this is a test piece. I'm just going to bend this. What I want to make is a rectangular pocket. So fold this over so that it overlaps this piece, weld it together so it'll make a rectangular pocket. So that'll hold the shanks on the Scarifier. So this is just a prototype test piece. I need to go back in the model and make these holes larger diameter so they fit a 3/8 inch bolt. That's the problem with, I mean, it fits on this side, I mean, as you can see, it goes in part way, but it stops because the holes are tapered. And that's one of the unfortunate things about plasma tables. Well, that one fits, so a random one, that one kind of fits too. So anyway, that's the problem. You can't get well, actually all three of those fit machine grade holes with a plasma torch. They're going to be rough size, and the other additional complication is because the torch uses air. Then the nitrogen in the air combines with the steel and makes nitrides, the top couple of mils, which makes it very hard. So, you know, you can't use it, just can't go put a drill in there and drill it out, or you'll ruin your drill, like instantly. Potentially use carbide. I've used a carbide burr, and I might be able to do that to rescue this piece. But you don't want to have to go to all that trouble. You want the machine to output the stuff so it fits right off the bat. The holes don't have to be machine fit on here anyway, so it'll be all right. All right, let's go to the press brake and bend this basically along that line. See if we can make a little pocket, long pocket that. And I'm thinking right now it's yeah, we'll see. Let's try it. All right, so we'll just see if we can bend this. The die may be too. Yeah, I don't know. It may just work. I don't know. I'm starting to have my doubts right now. You see, the die is almost too large. I didn't have my pins in the press. Look at that.
Can't believe I did that.
All right, let me fix this. I'll bring you back. All right, I got the cables hooked back up again. I mean, that was so stupid. I'd forgotten that I had taken it apart yesterday to change the height. All right, so we'll try this again without breaking the press, hopefully. Not quite enough. Let's see if we can bend it a little bit more. All right. I may not be able to get a 90 degree. I may be welding this, making it a weld mount. Oh, well. So then he overbends it a little bit. Well, this will still, or at least it confirms that I can bend it that far. So welding it like this will give me my pocket. All right, so I've at least proven that I can bend it. Now, and I would weld them together about like that. Okay. I think that shank size too small. So my shank would fit in here, and then this would be welded to a plate. But I think I need to go back to the drawing board on this. I think I might need to make the shank like 2 inches. I think it's only 1 inch here. I think it needs to be 2 inches, or at least 1.5 inches. All right, back to the drawing board. All right, I guess I misjudged that one, but I've run out of time for this episode, so try not to make these episodes an hour long. So we'll come back next week redoing the Scarifier shank holder, which is, I guess, is what you would call it. So we'll continue to work on that, perfect that, and then we'll be cutting out the shanks and the shank body and start assembling the beginnings of the Scarifier bar. And then, of course, then we'll start working on the attachments to the tractor itself. So come back next week to see some of that stuff. Thank you for watching. Thumbs up if you can. Leave me a comment. Tell me what I should have done on that part that I messed up. And fortunately, I didn't ruin my press brake. It just broke the hook on the cable. So, all right, we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.